Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to this evening's programme. You're listening to Radio Mac, broadcasting on 107.1 FM from the heart of Bradford, and I'm your host, Asif Sabah. And we're here in the studio, and today we're going to talk about unlocking your spiritual growth, and we're going to look at 4 transformative tips from the Quran to elevate your journey through this world. So do stick around and we'll look at those 4 tips on how you can elevate your awareness and grow through just generally living your life, but understanding the Quran in a much more deeper way. We give thanks and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for inviting us into your homes and allowing us to bring you messages of hope, happiness, peace, love and well-being, that we may remind you of the favours that Allah has bestowed on you. As you know, this programme is dedicated to exploring the spiritual and the symbolic language of the Quran. The Quran that I use is the Allama Abdullah Yusuf Ali version that's been translated from Arabic to English. And the main features of these talks are about what it's like to be a spiritual person living in this physical world. If what I quote does not match up exactly with the version of the Quran that you have, it may be that you have got a different edition. And so we are going to look at 4 verses from the Quran during this session or this program. And we're going to just talk about unlocking your spirituality. And I hope it helps you as you travel your journey and lets you know that the Quran is an amazing book. It's got so much spiritual wisdom contained within its verses, and as you read it you will find that you are amazed and transformed, because every time you read the Quran there will be something in the wisdom that you find that's going to help you on your journey through this world. And so do stick around and as we explore these 4 amazing verses from the Quran, I hope that you will take them with you on your own journey. I'll give you the verses that I'm going to use in case you haven't got your Qurans with you at the moment, and you can take them, write them down, put them into your phones or whatever you have handy, and then look at the verses later, and I hope they remind you of the topic this evening, and you can reflect on what you've heard and then apply whatever wisdom comes into your own minds. I'm just here to talk about how I understand the verses of the Quran, but you use your own intuition, you use your own wisdom to understand the verses, because we all receive divine inspiration. Now, inspiration is a word in the Quran, and it applies itself, or the word inspiration in the Quran is there 45 times, but I don't think enough understanding is actually given to the meaning of that word. Now, inspiration is an amazing word because it applies to information that comes into you from outside of yourself. Now, one thing I think we lack in understanding is this: we forget that all the information we think of is not necessarily from ourselves. And the Quran tells us this in numerous ways, little subtle ways. It doesn't outright tell you, but if you read the Quran, you will find that inspiration has never ever stopped flowing to us. You can read about inspiration in the stories of Adam and Eve and various verses in the Quran. And it's something, what we do, we're taught to think in certain ways when we go to school. But do we ever have classes on inspiration? No, we don't. And so we believe, or we grow up believing that everything we think about comes from our own cleverness. We think, oh, because I thought that and you didn't think that, then I must have created that thought in my mind. But that's not so. And the Quran tells you that we receive inspiration from a source outside of ourselves. And it's, I do believe, if you read Surah 13, verse 11, I think in that verse, I don't have it with me at the moment because I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but sometimes I'll just get into talking and it just comes out in general terms. But you'll know inspiration does appear in the Quran, the word, in the translation, the Yusuf Ali version that's translated from Arabic to English. And so what is inspiration? Well, inspiration is something that comes to us from outside of ourselves. It's not something that we create because we've thought about something and it's our own cleverness. When we think about something, we have guardian angels that are there. They are helping us, they are inspiring us, they are guiding us, and they are giving us that information that we need as answers to our questions. Those questions may be externally that we voice out loud, or they can be internally that come from our soul, or when we say our prayers. Because we're always thinking some thoughts on some level. And so inspiration is that little voice of wisdom. Now, we can sometimes see that voice of wisdom as our conscious, or if you are more enlightened, you will appreciate and look at, oh, that was a little bit of information from my guardian angels to help me on my journey through this world. Because we do have these guardian angels, and they're not just sat there twiddling their thumbs, as it were, writing down every thought that we have and writing down every deed that we do in detail. They are there to inspire us. And just like the dark suggestions that suggest from the darkness into your soul to tell you to do something bad. Well, don't forget, we have these guardian angels who are on the other side, who are suggesting something good. And then in between those two kinds of suggestions is us ourselves. So we may have a thought, and, if it's not in line with a good idea, the darkness may come in and try to influence you to do something. Now, we call that a sin, or commit a sin. And so that arises out of our nafs, our desires. The angels will say, do you really think you should be doing that? And now they will never tell you what to do, but they will plant that suggestion. And why will they do it only as a suggestion to your soul? And if you read the Quran, you'll find that it says they will suggest something to you. So they will only suggest to you because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you free will. And that free will means they cannot come in and directly tell you, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. They will plant a suggestion, because then other verses that are linked to something like this explains that each soul must come up struggling for itself. In other words, the final decision between the light and the darkness of your soul is your choice. And depending on which way you decide to go, which way you decide to lean in the mind, depends on the result. So if it's a negative, bad thought, if you follow it, then consequences of a bad nature will arise and happen in your life as a result. If you decide to follow a good thought and the light of your soul from that suggestion that may say to you, do you really think you can do, you should be doing that? Then that is a great battle that you have won over the darkness, and you stay elevated in your conscious awareness. So you hold yourself in the light when you take notice. Now, there's all sorts of other information that kind of goes in with this, and I'm going to give you a quick run through of, to help you see a bigger picture. So, between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are 70,000 veils of light. Each veil of light is a degree of consciousness. So, if you are residing within a specific degree of conscious awareness and you follow the bad thought, then what's going to happen? Your consciousness or your spiritual self is going to lower its vibration because you listened to that negative thought and emotion, and it comes through your emotions, your negative emotions, and it shows in your life as a harmful thought. So you become filled with the energy, because don't forget, you are a spiritual being. So you become filled with that energy. And what happens to your spiritual self in terms of between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are 70,000 veils of light. Say you're residing in level 20. What do you think happens to your soul? Is the question. It lowers and maybe drops down to number 15 as an example. Because if you decide to follow the negative emotion. If you decide to follow a good thought and follow the light, the good suggestion, and you will know the difference between a negative suggestion in your soul and a good suggestion. So, and this is where you have to do your own work on your own self. So, if you follow a good suggestion, which you will know the difference, your consciousness will stay where it is or it will ascend, depending on the situation, because you will begin to fill with light, or you will stay balanced where you are until you build up enough light within your soul to hold yourself steady in the degrees of consciousness above, let's just say 20. Even though I said there are 70,000 veils of light, but say you're on level 20, well, you'll have to build enough light in your soul from doing good deeds and through doing or following the wise wisdom that comes into your mind. So if you follow enough of that wise wisdom, what do you think happens? You grow to become lighter and brighter spiritually, we're talking about. Now, you won't see this because all you'll see is your physical body. And you'll just say, oh, well, I just chose that because it made sense to me. But no, there is so much more to it than just following it because it made sense. What you do is you hold yourself, say in station number 20, And as you build your light up within your own soul, you may rise up to 21 or 22 or 23 or even 25 all of a sudden. And that's where you will consciously stay. Because we're not all connected to the same degree of consciousness. There's not just heaven, hell, and an earth somewhere in between. There are so many variations, so many degrees between us as humans and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all those little levels, the 70,000 degrees of light between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are all the levels that lead back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Below that, there are 70,000 veils of darkness, because everything has an opposite. And so as you begin to develop yourself and grow and fill with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's light, your consciousness will ascend and you will grow. And this is how, when the Quran is talking about how each soul must come up struggling for itself, this is you raising your conscious awareness up through the many degrees of consciousness. So have a think about that for a moment, and I'm just going to put a nice nasheed on, and then I'll be back in just a moment, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my brothers and sisters, and welcome back. You are listening to Radio Mac, broadcasting on 107.1 FM. I'm your host, Asif Sabah, live in the studio, and today we're going to start looking at 4 verses from the Quran that will unlock your inner growth and help you on your journey through this world. And these verses from the Quran are some beautiful verses, and they will help you on your journey. And so just before the break, we were looking at how you come up struggling for yourself, how each soul is on its own journey, and by listening to your own inner truth, you will start to unlock your inner truth within yourself, because your angels will be there guiding you on your pathway and helping you on your journey. Now, there is no doubt that this spiritual journey, it is a personal endeavour that goes beyond the cultural boundaries that we set for ourselves and our cultural obligations. And for those people who are seeking guidance and inspiration, well, the Holy Quran offers wisdom that can help strengthen their spiritual journey. And so as we look at 4 transformative tips from the Quran, these tips will enrich your spiritual journey. Now, a couple of those things that we need to carry with us are gratitude as a spiritual practice. Now, gratitude is like a cornerstone for spiritual growth. Now, it doesn't matter what religion you follow or anything like that. I would say that everyone on this planet, in this world, can practice gratitude. And as you make gratitude a cornerstone for your own spiritual growth, you will realize how encapsulating the gratitude that you express can have upon you, what an effect it has on your own inner soul when you are grateful for everything that comes into your life. And as we look at Surah 14 verse 7, It highlights and it says this: if ye are grateful, I will add more favours unto you, emphasizing the power of gratitude. So if you are grateful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will add more favours unto you. And how does this happen? Well, it's like any cornerstone of your life. It's all down to the expressions that you decide to express within yourself. So if you express gratitude, what do you think that does to you? Just now, try it for yourself right now. Just express gratitude. Breathe in and just feel gratitude and grateful for everything that you have in life. And just look at how you feel overall. What does this expression of gratitude, or let's say, how does this expression of gratitude make you feel? Now that is the question you have to ask yourself. And then as you express gratitude, you will know how it makes you feel. Now imagine taking that moment of total gratefulness and living in that moment for the rest of your life. So imagine holding yourself in that moment of gratitude. What is that going to do to you? Especially when you pass away from this world, which is something that will happen to us all. If you can hold yourself in that moment of gratitude and just be grateful for everything that's going to happen in your life from this moment in time, you are going to go back to the hereafter with a mindset, with that feeling of gratefulness. Now imagine if you didn't have that feeling of gratefulness. If you only thought about your own self and I want this, I want that, and you're always chasing things because you believe those things are going to help you grow. You are climbing the ladder only of material things. And you have no concept of gratitude. Then when you pass away from this world, what are you going to take? You're going to just take what you want with you into the next world. You're not going to have that feeling of gratitude because you didn't practice it in your life. And all these things that we talk about, they have to be practiced so that they grow within you as feelings. Just like charity, if you never practice charity, then it's never going to grow within you. It's never going to become a part of you. And so by practicing gratitude, it opens your heart because you begin to feel grateful for everything that you have in your life. And so it is important to take some time out to reflect on the blessings in your life, no matter how big or how small. Expressing gratitude not only deepens your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it also develops a positive outlook that can permeate all aspects of your life, because you carry that gratitude around with you, and whenever you get something, or even when you lose something, you are still grateful. That is the power of gratitude, and this goes out to all people. Everybody on this world is capable of expressing gratitude for the things that they have in this world, and that is the beauty. Now, just before we go on, let me tell you about my website if you want to visit it. I do have a website at www.asifsabermindfulness.com. So if you want to drop any messages, make a connection, send me an email, just visit my website and you'll be able to send me any questions or I'll get back to you either through this program or directly online if you need any help from myself. But let me just continue to look at acts of kindness and charity, because that is another big thing. These acts of kindness and charity, as long as you're developing them within yourself, when you do an act of kindness, that grows within you and until you become a kind person. Just like acts of charity, if you do never ever give anything, then you will never grow in charity. It'll be like you've got a little seed of light within you, but because you never acted upon that little seed of light, it never ever grows. It stays there dormant because you didn't bother trying to grow it, trying to let it open up like a beautiful flower so that it radiates light. It just stays there dormant because you haven't activated it. You just allowed other thoughts to cover over that beautiful seed of wisdom. Just like kindness. If you never do an act of kindness, it doesn't matter what kind of kindness it is, but if you never do an act of kindness, kindness will never evolve within you. You will always be covered up. It's like a shadow becomes cast over you and it blocks you from acting in a kind way, and it stops you from allowing yourself to grow. So that is the beauty of charity, that is the beauty of kindness, and also gratitude. All these things are things that you have to develop within your own soul to help it grow. And the Islamic teachings emphasize the importance of kindness and charity. And the Quran encourages believers to share their blessings with others, which creates a sense of compassion and community. So, let's have a look at another verse from the Quran. The first verse we looked at was Surah 14, verse 7, which highlights, "If ye are grateful, I will add more favours unto you." So this next verse we're going to look at is Surah 2, verse 267. And it states, it explains this. "O you who believe, give of the good things which ye have honourably earned." So this verse underscores the transformative impact of a selfless act. So you are not acting selfishly, but selflessly. You are giving of yourself. And an act of kindness, an act of charity, are two amazing things that you can do in your life. And as you act upon those acts, as you express kindness, as you express charity, they will evolve, they will develop in you. They will not lie dormant, but they will grow. And that will affect how you feel. That will change you spiritually. That will change you spiritually. Giving of the good things that you have honourably earned, that is an act of love, of kindness, of charity. And as those acts grow and develop within you, you grow again spiritually. So this is all about you growing. And like we said at the beginning of the program, we spoke about how we're not all dwelling within the same state of conscious awareness, that between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there are 70,000 veils of light, and somewhere you will be existing within those veils of light. The more you give, the more you show gratitude, the more kindness you show, the more charity. Those are acts that raise your consciousness. And you begin to ascend. Now, you may not feel the results in this world, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes note of everything that you do. And you will be rewarded according to the beautiful things that you do in your life. And this is where it's so important. These acts of charity, these acts of kindness, these acts of gratitude are all acts of love. Because as you grow in love, you will radiate. Because don't forget, your thoughts determine the vibrational energy of your soul. And the more love you can express, no matter what form it comes in, the more love you can express through doing good deeds, that will lighten and brighten you, so that you become a radiant light in the darkness. That is you coming up, struggling for yourself, because you are beginning to raise your conscious awareness. You know, so when you're only thinking about yourself, you are dwelling on a much more lower vibration than if you were to think of others, because that's where you raise yourself up. That is where you come up struggling for yourself. And it's a conscious ascension. It's not necessarily a material ascension, because that's just status and the things of the world. But you have to think beyond this world sometimes. You have to get to know that you are a conscious spiritual being that has come into this world to experience the human condition. And the more love that you can express, the greater will be the radiance of your inner self. And that is how it kind of works. And the lessons of kindness and charity are important, regardless of which religious group or sect, whatever you decide to follow. So, as you donate to charitable causes, or you volunteer your time, these small actions that benefit others, they strengthen your connection and bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the beauty. That is the beauty of you showing kindness. You having the initiative to have those feelings, because something stirred you to give. Something stirred within you to be grateful. Something stirred within you to be charitable. There's something there. And as you allow those feelings to develop, that's when you start to get to know who you truly are. Because you see yourself, you understand yourself, you get to know yourself through your character and your actions. So pay attention to the beautiful wisdom that you find in the verses of the Quran, because you will become so enlightened by the wisdom that you find. It will help you to grow, and it will help you to develop as you should be developing as a spiritual person living in this physical world. And so, just a quick mention, may Allah bless Grandma Kenise for a beautiful little conversation I had with her earlier. I hope she's going to be well. She's got a few problems with her legs at the moment. Not particularly difficult problems. She can still get around, but she's got a few sores. So may Allah bless her and keep her safe. And don't forget to send out your du'as to Grandma Kenise to help her through her recovery. And don't forget, anybody else, as an act of charity, as an act of kindness, as an act of love, don't forget your prayers, your du'as to anybody are heard by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are all connected and interconnected. There's no distance between us and anyone anywhere in this world. And don't forget, the thoughts you think, those thoughts are energy that you create. Those thoughts go out from yourself, and the person you think about receives those thoughts with great joy. They may not be aware of receiving your prayers, or that you're even praying for them, but it is an act of kindness, and it can have a beautiful healing effect. So do send your prayers to those in need. Just pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pray for your friends, pray for those people who have passed away. They receive those prayers, because don't forget, the hereafter is but a thought away. It is but a thought away. And let me just give you a bit of understanding here. I talked about how the angels can whisper thoughts and you pick them up as inspiration. So they can suggest thoughts to you. Well, what about your thoughts that go out? Just like the angels can suggest thoughts to you, as we spoke about inspiration, just like the darkness can also suggest thoughts to you. When you pray, those people pick up those prayers that you say about them in the same way. And it helps them heal. It helps them to... It helps them to... It shows that you're thinking about them. And it's an act of kindness. It's an act of charity, because you don't get anything back from them. But they pick those thoughts up and they hear them, just like you have thoughts in your mind. And we think all the thoughts we have are from ourselves, but that is not so. The thoughts that you pick up, the thoughts, those moments that are inspirational to you, that is a suggestion. It's called, some people put it down to synchronicity. Well, the same way you pick up thoughts, and you might think they're from yourself, those in the hereafter have a greater awareness of us. So when you do your du'as, when you pick up on those thoughts, or when they will pick up on those thoughts that you send out as prayers, and they accept them with great joy. Why? because they are sent with love. And they are just a thought away, just like you are but a thought away from your angels. And you know the verse I'm going to say next, that the angels are closer to you than your jugular vein. And so is the hereafter. That is how close the hereafter is. So your thoughts reach those in the hereafter because they are so close to you. But your conscious awareness of the hereafter has been overshadowed by all these other thoughts. And this is why I talk to you, to get you to open up, to get you to loosen up, to get you to rethink some of the things that you've been conditioned with. The hereafter is closer to you than your jugular vein, and how you express yourself is known in the hereafter. They see all your thoughts. They know your struggles. They understand your struggles. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free will and each soul must come up struggling for itself, they cannot interfere. They are bound by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. And so, pay attention. Be kind. Show gratitude. Express love. And show kindness and give in charity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my brothers and sisters, and welcome back. You are listening to Radio Mac, broadcasting on 107.1 FM from the heart of Bradford. And I'm your host, Asif Saber, live in the studio. And today we've been talking about four important points. We've been talking about gratitude. We've been talking about kindness and charity. And so we're going to move on. And daily reflections and connections are also so important, because through the expression of love, you will make certain connections spiritually. Because as you express certain mental states, or as you express yourself, then that will either lighten and brighten you spiritually, or it will darken you spiritually. And so, depending on which way you decide to express yourself, depends on the kind of connection you have to the hereafter. And amidst the chaotic routines that can happen all around us, it gets challenging to find the moments to find that inner peace, to form a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Quran encourages you to engage in daily reflections and establish a strong connection through prayer and also through meditation. And you'll find this in Surah 2, verse 152, because it reminds us of this. It says, "Then do ye remember me, I will remember you." And this verse highlights the reciprocal nature of the relationship between the believer and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's for you to take time out of your life to reflect and allow the love within you to grow towards being grateful, showing charity, being kind. And as you express these, you will form a beautiful connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that you express will lighten and brighten you spiritually. And this will help you to ascend consciously and experience a beautiful state of being. And it's through these acts of kindness and worship and charity and gratitude that you will grow and you will feel that connection between yourself and the life of the hereafter, because life is about a conscious connection, not a materialistic connection. It's a conscious union between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the life of the hereafter. And you can find that conscious union through the wisdom of the Quran, because the Quran teaches you about forming this divine connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is important to reflect, especially after you have done your prayers, and those moments that give you that opportunity to reflect at any time. It's just a matter of changing your thoughts and remembering and thinking, okay, let me just calm it down a little bit in the life of the world and just reflect for a moment. Not about what you're getting or what you hope to get, but surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's where it's important. And as you learn to connect spiritually, you will begin to feel different, because again, it comes down to your soul being lighter and brighter, not dark and murky, but lighter and brighter, because you have to learn to hold your consciousness steady in the higher states of conscious awareness, and realize for yourself that life isn't about heaven, hell, and earth in between. There are not just 3 states of being. There are multiple states. And between man and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are 70,000 veils of light, and there are also 70,000 veils of darkness. And you know yourself where you want to be. And so this is where you need to understand that it's all about a conscious connection. And as you make that conscious connection, you will either lighten your soul or you will darken it. But only you will know. You know what choices you are making in your life. You know the reasons behind why you are making those choices, and you know that this choice is going to lighten and brighten my soul, or this choice is going to darken my soul and make it murky like smoke. So that is the choice that you've got. And so when this verse, Surah 2, verse 152, says, "Then do ye remember me, I will remember you," it is letting you know you need to reflect within your mind. But not any old kind of reflection. Don't just reflect because you want something. So there's 2 kinds of reflection. There's reflecting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the best reflection. Or there's reflecting within your mind, I want this. But it's not actually, the second one isn't like a reflection. It's more of a scheming in the mind. It can be a reflection, but it's a scheming in the mind about what you want out of this material world. But reflecting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will have different thoughts than whether you're just scheming in your mind as a way of reflecting. And so pay attention, because if you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remember you. And how do you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? By doing acts of kindness, acts of charity, and being grateful for the things that you have in your life. This will help you on your journey. And so the last point we want to make And this is a really interesting verse. There's a lot more to this verse, but it just reassures you. So the Quran also highlights the power of patience, as it serves as a powerful tool to build inner strength. So as you read Surah 2, verse 155, because it says, "Be sure, we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods or lives, or the fruits of your toil. But give good tidings to those who patiently preserve." Now you just think about that verse for a moment. You will be tested in so many ways. It could be you feel the fear, but it's not always right to be afraid. You don't want to go through your life always being afraid. It is something that you actually have to learn to overcome your fears and stand for truth. And even hunger. You will be tested in times of hunger. Maybe not in this country, but there's many countries where many people are tested. And we're talking about general. We're not just talking about Muslims here. We're looking at the world as an understanding. So there will be people who are tested in hunger, but Allah knows best the lessons. It doesn't mean, this is where the charity aspect comes in. We need to be doing kind acts of charity by sending food, sending what we can to help those. But people will be tested in hunger and even in the loss of goods. So maybe the other day you got ripped off by somebody. Is that just a test? That's when you have to put your faith in Allah and say to yourself, because it's even happened to me before. People have cheated me and, they not being very kind. And I'll tell you that because it's life. It's not the best of lives, but it happens. And you know what I turned round and did? Well, it wasn't until somebody mentioned it to me and it kind of hit me like a thunderbolt, as it were. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and He takes. And maybe what I went through was Allah taking from me. So He allowed that to happen and I had to lose it. And maybe that was a test. I don't know. But it helped me get through it. Sometimes Allah gives, and then a situation happens, and it's gone, and you're thinking, what? What just happened? I thought I was a little bit smarter than that. And before you know it, it's gone. And so it happens to us all at some point. And so how I dealt with it was, okay, it's fine. Allah gives, Allah takes in different ways. So pay attention to what is going on. Just like this verse says, we will be tested in the loss of goods. And, it's an amazing thing. We just never know. But how attached to the goods that we have are we? Maybe that's the test. And we have to see ourselves through it and say, okay, Allah gives and He takes. And it was so much easier for me to let that go once I understood that. And even I get a little bit caught up in the life of the world, and I forget, until I remember or someone reminds me, then I say, okay. So it can come, it can happen to anybody. And so if you're going through a difficult period right now because of a loss of some goods, just accept and say, okay, hand it over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He sees all, He knows all. There's a reason why it happened, and nothing escapes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even in the Quran it talks about everything happens for the benefit of the world. We may think, oh, it's just happened in our little lives. And because we're so programmed about life, and the more we have, the taller we stand, as it were. You know, I've got all this stuff, you know, and, you know, I've managed to amass all this stuff. I'm a bigger person than the next person to me. But we can't take any of it with us, squabbling and fighting over material things. And what do we take with us? We have it for such a short time. But what does that create within ourselves is the question we should be asking. What kind of person are we becoming? And so if you hold that idea in your mind, if you have lost something, or somebody has done something wrong to you, sometimes it's best just to let it go. I can't tell you which way to go. I can only put forth a suggestion. And then it's up to you to make a decision. And so pay attention, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tests us in many different ways. And even lives. In the lives, we learn lessons. I had a friend who's just passed away. And, you know, it was a surprise to me. And, you know, I just think, wow. It made me reflect on my own life and how it's going, and what have I actually done in the way of helping my soul grow. That is the question. And so we need to pay attention, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us with other people. And when somebody passes away, you see, they can't take anything with them. The only thing they take is their character. And then they stand bare and alone before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So allow yourself to grow and understand and know. And I'm going to read this verse out again. And even with the fruits of your toils, Allah will take those even, because nothing belongs to us. So we may think we've worked so hard, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. And we're stood there thinking, what happened? So let me just read that verse again. And it's Surah 2, verse 155. Be sure, we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss of goods or lives, or the fruits of your toil. But give good tidings to those who patiently preserve. So patience is a must. It's something we need to develop and grow in patience. And patience is a really hard one, because we want everything today. And we have to sometimes wait for years before we get the things that we really want. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He works differently to us. And so we need to master patience. And how do we master patience? Or we practice patience. That's how it grows within us. That's how we learn to become patient. And it's the same with everything else. We have to learn to become patient. And being patient can help us face challenges with resilience. And it's crucial to see challenges as opportunities for spiritual and personal growth. So embracing patience will empower you to face adversity with resilience and grace. And that is the key. And by incorporating some of these tips that we've talked about today, you can change your spiritual journey. And as you deal with the ups and downs of life, it's crucial to turn to the Quran and let the wisdom of the amazing, glorious Quran be a light in your life and guide you on your pathway. So pay attention to gratitude, pay attention to the charity that you do, pay attention to the kindness that you do, pay attention to the patience that you try to work on, and also pay attention to what is going on in your life, and pay attention to your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how you can increase yourself, how you can increase your awareness of your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the best way. But you will know yourself. It's for you to make certain decisions in your life that are going to benefit your own soul, that are going to benefit you on your journey, because nobody else can make your journey. You have to make that journey yourself. And only you can come up struggling for yourself, because you know what's going on within your own self, within your own conscious awareness. You know the difference between right and wrong. You know the difference between doing a good deed and doing a bad deed, because your consciousness will tell you the difference. You will be aware of the difference, and then it's up to you to choose. Do you lighten your soul, or do you darken it by dropping down into the darkness? These are questions only you can answer, because you know what is going on within your own self, and it's for you to choose. You to make sure that you choose that which is light for the benefit of your soul. So strive to be the best version of yourself while you're here on earth. Be aware of some of the tests, the trials, and the things that you're going to go through in life. But put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and know that, everything isn't going to happen and work out perfectly for us. It's not going to happen, and everything isn't going to be rosy and work out beautiful for us. There are trials and tests. There are situations where we will have to learn, and those lessons may be painful. But as we learn to strive in awareness, as we learn to grow in awareness, as we learn to come up struggling for ourselves, we can create a beautiful environment. And depending on how you act, depending on how you grow, you will pass that growth onto your children, for those people who have children. And they will grow up according to the things that you teach them. Because they will see what you do and then they will copy it. But if you're creating darkness, they will grow up copying that. And, do you love your children enough? Maybe you need to practice love. But learn to give in charity. Learn to do the best you can. Be kind. Teach your children the beautiful way of living according to the Quran. Be an example for your children. Because they will grow up according to how you've taught them to become. They will grow up according to what you teach them. Do you sit down and teach them directly? Or do you just leave them to go and do their own thing without really explaining and teaching something that's going to really help them on their journey?